Have you ever wondered why suffering, a seemingly unavoidable part of life, exists? It's a question as old as humanity itself, a riddle that has puzzled philosophers, theologians, and thinkers across centuries and cultures. Suffering is a universal experience, an intricate part of the tapestry of life. It's a phenomenon that transcends borders, cultures, and time, affecting each one of us, regardless of who we are or where we come from. Yet, despite its universality, suffering remains one of life's greatest mysteries, a paradox that has sparked countless debates and discussions. Many have grappled with this enigma, seeking to understand its purpose, its origin, and its role in our lives. Some have found enlightenment in acceptance, others in resistance, and still others in the pursuit of knowledge. As we delve into this profound question, we'll explore various philosophical perspectives and their unique insights into the nature of suffering. Let's embark on a journey to explore different philosophical perspectives on why suffering happens. Buddhism, one of the world's oldest religions, offers a profound understanding of suffering. Imagine a wheel, a cycle that keeps turning, each rotation bringing with it the experience of life and inevitably suffering. This is the image Buddhism paints of existence. But why does suffering occur? Buddhism answers this question with the Four Noble Truths, a cornerstone of its teachings. The first noble truth is the truth of suffering, known as dukkha. It's the recognition that life, as it is filled with physical and mental suffering. Illness, aging, death, sorrow, and despair are all parts of this existence. Even moments of joy are temporary, giving way to the inevitable change and loss. Recognizing this truth is the first step. The second noble truth is the origin or cause of this suffering. Buddhism points to tanha, or craving, as the root of suffering. We desire, we crave, we cling. We desire wealth, power, pleasure, and even ideals of who we should be. We cling to our views, our identities, our loved ones, and in this craving and clinging, suffering arises. The third noble truth, however, brings hope. It's the truth of the cessation of suffering. It proclaims that suffering can end. It's not an eternal cycle. Liberation is possible. This liberation, known as nirvana, is the extinguishing of the flames of desire, hatred, and ignorance. The fourth noble truth is the path leading to the end of suffering, known as the Noble Eightfold Path. It's a guide to ethical conduct, mental discipline, and wisdom. It's not a quick fix, but a lifelong journey of understanding, mindfulness, and compassion. So Buddhism doesn't just acknowledge suffering or explain its existence. It shows a way out. It provides a path to follow, a journey towards liberation. In Buddhism, suffering arises from desire, but it's not a hopeless situation. There's a path to liberation. Existentialists, on the other hand, see suffering in a different light. Dive into the minds of existentialists, and you'll find a unique perspective on suffering. For them, suffering is not a result of karma, nor is it a divine test. Rather, it's an inevitable byproduct of our confrontation with the harsh reality of existence, a universe that is deaf to our pleas and indifferent to our desires. Existentialists like Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus emphasized that life, in its most fundamental form, lacks inherent meaning. This is not a pessimistic view, but rather a liberating one. It means that we, as individuals, have the freedom to construct our own purpose in life. Yet, it is this very freedom that often leads to suffering. We are, as Sartre famously said, condemned to be free. We are thrown into a world without a predefined purpose, and it's up to us to navigate through the uncertainty, to make sense of the senseless. This very task can be overwhelming, leading to what Sartre termed as existential angst, a form of suffering that arises from the burden of absolute freedom and the dread of making wrong choices. Camus, on the other hand, introduced the concept of the absurd. He described life as a constant struggle, a tug-of-war between our human desire for meaning and the silent, unresponsive universe that offers none. This struggle, this confrontation with the absurd, is a source of immense suffering. But Camus doesn't leave us in despair. He suggests that we can still find joy and purpose in the struggle itself, by embracing the absurd and continuing to seek meaning despite knowing it's a futile endeavor. So for existentialists, suffering is not something to be eradicated or escaped from. It is an intrinsic part of our human existence, a result of our courageous attempt to carve out meaning in a universe that offers none. It is, in essence, a testament to our freedom, our resilience, and our unyielding spirit. For existentialists, suffering is a consequence of our search for meaning in an indifferent universe. The ancient Stoics also had their own take on suffering. Just as we've delved into the Buddhist and existentialist perspectives, let's now explore the Stoic philosophy, a school of thought that emerged from ancient Greece and Rome, and its approach to the enduring question of suffering. Stoics like the philosopher Seneca or the emperor Marcus Aurelius posited a fascinating idea. Suffering, they argued, does not stem from the events that befall us, but from our responses to those events. Imagine a rainstorm, for instance. The rain itself is not inherently good or bad, it simply is. However, our reaction to the rain, whether we see it as a damper on our day or a nourishing gift to the earth, that's where suffering or joy enters the equation. This isn't to say that Stoics were devoid of feeling or impassive to pain. On the contrary, they were deeply aware of the emotional impact of life's trials. But they advocated for a certain emotional resilience, a fortitude that allows us to withstand life's storms without being swept away. Stoics also embraced the concept of amor fati, a Latin phrase that translates to love of fate. This means accepting and even welcoming all that life brings, the good and the bad, the joyous and the painful. Suffering in this context becomes less about what happens to us and more about how we choose to perceive and respond to what happens. By cultivating an inner tranquility and resilience, Stoics believed that we can mitigate our own suffering. This is not about denying or repressing our feelings, but about understanding them, accepting them, and ultimately, not allowing them to rule us. So in the eyes of the Stoics, we are not passive victims of fate, but active participants in our own lives. We have the power to shape our perceptions, to choose our responses, and thereby, to influence our own suffering. Stoics believe that we suffer not because of fate, but because of our reactions to it. It's a perspective that challenges us to take ownership of our emotional lives, to stand firm in the face of adversity, and to find strength in acceptance. These philosophies provide different lenses to view and understand suffering. Our exploration has taken us through the Buddhist perspective, which posits that suffering arises from desire and attachment. We've seen how the existentialist view suggests that suffering is inherent in the human condition, stemming from our struggle to find meaning in a seemingly indifferent universe. And we've delved into Stoic philosophy, which teaches us that suffering is not caused by external events, but by our reactions to them. Each perspective offers its own wisdom, its own toolset for understanding and navigating the turbulent seas of suffering. They remind us that suffering is not a foreign invader to be banished, but a part of the human experience to be understood, accepted, and used as a catalyst for growth. While suffering is a complex and deeply personal experience, philosophy offers us ways to navigate and make sense of it. It's not about finding the correct answer, but about gaining insights to help us cope with the realities of life.